BG Asset Management, we founded the company in January 1st of 2018. We currently manage about 700 residential apartment units, a small portfolio of commercial office space building, and also a couple of homeowner associations or community associations. So we're pretty diverse in what we manage. And I will send everyone out basically some more information about our company. But we were founded by 3 brokers or 50 years worth of experience in real estate, fund syndications, multifamily. Recently, we just started a construction company to focus on apartment maintenance and new apartment development. And recently, we've kind of ventured out into film production as an investment tool that ties into apartment housing. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that, we can talk about it, after the webinar. We're going to run through this fairly quickly. If you have any questions, go ahead, use the chat, and I can unmute you, and we can have that discussion, answer any questions you may have. Definitely want to make this as interactive as possible. I will provide copies of these links to everyone who's registered, and they will be available as a downloadable PDF from our website probably in about a week, but I'll have all the emails sent out to everyone within the next 24 hours. And so you'll have access to all this information. Okay, let me do a screen share here and we'll get started. Okay, so should be able to see my screen right now. Okay, so first and foremost is we want to cover the basics of taking photography. I've found a really good article here, and this breaks down a lot of the different tips and tools when it comes to taking photography for real estate. Now, this also applies to residential rental units, and this is the core when it comes to doing your own photography. Now, we personally don't do our own photography. We outsource it to Spotlight Photography, and I'll introduce you to them here in a minute. They are a professional photographer, videographer. They do the Madhupur tours, Zillow tours, and we'll get into a lot of the services they offer and how we utilize them for our rental properties. But for the people that want to do it yourself, take your own photos, it's really key to try to perfect the photos as much as possible so that they show well online, because you're going to be competing in some areas depending on where your rental is. You're going to be competing with 400, 500, 600 other rental properties that tenants are looking at. And most tenants, when they're looking at a city like Berkeley or a city like Pinot or a city like Walnut Creek, they're not just specifically, most of them are not specifically looking for that city. They're looking at that city plus comparable cities, or they're looking at locations near BART. And that's something that we've seen on the East Bay is you have a lot of people that really want to look at BART stations and rentals close by so they can bike there, walk there, even take a very quick $5 Uber there. So you've got Richmond BART, El Cerrito BART, all the way through Berkeley, Oakland, and of course, going into Walnut Creek, you've got BART. So it's really important to just maybe take, a few minutes, 30 minutes, go through the properties that you're going to be competing with, take a look at their photography, and you will learn a lot. So you definitely want to stand out. So of course, when you're taking photography, you've got choosing the right time. This is pretty straightforward. Is you want to make sure there's good sunlight hitting the property. You want to make sure the sunlight's not blasting into your camera lens and distracting from the actual photo. And then I will introduce you to a couple companies that also can take your photos and will edit your photos to make them look very professional. So I'm going to give you basically this article. What I'm showing you is a great hack to do it yourself. And then I'll show you kind of like the budget hacker, where you can, for a couple dollars, you can really have some photos edited professionally. And then there's, of course, spending money on a professional photographer to just take care of it for you. One of the things I really recommend people to do is when you take photos, do not take photos in a vertical manner. So don't take with your phone up and down. Make sure you take them horizontally. Another way to kind of put that into perspective is take the photos like widescreen, right? That way they get formatted correctly when they go online and they show well. It's really annoying from a consumer perspective to be looking at property photos and the photo might be zoomed out, zoomed in, depending on how the website formats the photo to fit their various formatting guidelines. So going back to doing photos yourself, examine the property beforehand. This is one thing that probably 90% of do-it-yourselfers and property managers and real estate agents do all the time in photography. They don't go through to put the toilet seats down, to open the windows, the blinds, to close the doors, to make sure lights are on. Now, turning lights on, if you have a really, really good like camera and you've got good editing skills, sometimes you may not want to turn on lights because you may be able to edit the photos much better instead of having the generic apartment lights hitting the lens. So, but if you don't know how to do that, always turn on the lights. At least you're going to get some better visuals, some better photo capture. So I recommend everyone to go through this article. Again, it covers the basics: turning on the lights, using a tripod in a low setting. Tripods are handy if you're using certain manual features on your camera. If you're using manual features on your camera, whether it's a SLR camera or whether it's your iPhone or Samsung, one of the issues is if your hand is shaky, maybe might be a little too shaky at times, it's really sensitive and it will pick that up and your photos come out blurry. So tripod eliminates all that and you can get a very even balanced photo. Wide angle lenses. So this is actually something that I've been utilizing in the last year. If you have the latest iPhone, that is the, I think it's the Plus or the Max version, or sorry, the iPhone Pro versions that have the 3 cameras that look like a fidget spinner. Those are the cameras that you want to use because they have the wide angle lens already built in and you're able to capture more of the apartment, more of the property, more of the room whenever you're taking a photo, and it looks bigger when people are looking at it online. If you don't have that, if you don't have the third wide angle lens on your actual phone camera, there are adapters you can buy and attach it to a camera. Or if you have an actual SLR, there's actual lenses that you can just attach to it that give you a wide angle view. Flash photography is good for the photography nerds out there. There are different types of devices that will capture low light to high light within a room, and it'll capture anywhere from like 9 to 13 different what is it, like 9 to 13 different light captures and it merges them together kind of like in that HDR format, and it gives you the best possible photo based on the current light within the place. So highly recommended. So I'm not going to go through the rest of this article, but very good article to go through, covers the basics. Now, once you have these photos and you have the photos, what are you going to do with them to touch them up, make them look a little bit better? So this is where I recommend a few things. You may want to look at simple touch-ups, or you may want to look at virtual staging. Virtual staging is becoming very popular nowadays. And so there's a couple of companies here that I'm gonna recommend. Box Brownie is probably my favorite, but I've recently discovered this Home 3ds, and they do actually a really good job, and they're very reasonable, and their package price tends to be a little bit cheaper than Box Brownie. So with Home 3ds, you've got virtual staging, and it's very simple. They do 2D, 3D floor plans, 3D walking tours, virtual staging, and even marketing videos. And they do this for you. Now, Box Brownie is another company, and these people are located out of Canada. So for them, it's all going to be remote, but they've got a unique business in which you take your photos, you send them the photos, you upload it to their website, and then they will go through and edit the photos. If you took photos at nighttime, they can switch it to daytime or vice versa. If you take photos of a very cluttered room, they can remove all that clutter. They can virtually stage properties. They can take photos of a completely demolished room, and they can create it into a render of what it could look like when it's fixed up. So this becomes very handy when you're in the process of remodeling an apartment, and even a house. If you're a home flipper, very useful product to showcase people what the apartment will look like. And so I'll show you a couple of examples here. Here's an example of, you can basically provide a floor plan and they'll design the actual 3D model floor plan for you. Here's an example of before, just simple image enhancement, but they have some more impressive photos. And this is a basic touch-up. So the image enhancement, again, is cheap. It starts at $1.60 per photo. So again, if you have 10 photos, 16 bucks, very cheap, reasonable. Here we've got a before photo of the actual staging. Here is item removal, perfect example. And this becomes useful because if you have an apartment that is currently tenant occupied and they let you go through and take photos, this becomes super handy because you can remove all their personal property. Now, this is a good example of the renovation photos. So you've got on the left-hand side, you've got it completely demoed. On the right side, you've got the render of what the property will look like once fixed up. So this is handy to start marketing properties while the apartment is being renovated, or your home rental while it's being renovated before it's actually finished. So hopefully you can get it rented out prior to it being ready. And that's another useful way to minimize your vacancy downtime. Virtual tours. So virtual tours are becoming very popular. We've been doing virtual tours now for probably a couple months before the actual coronavirus hit. The virtual tours, it's funny, it's kind of forced people to really get into virtual tours. Virtual tours in the rental market, they were not as popular prior to the coronavirus, and people still wanted to physically go in person and take a look at the property, despite there being a virtual tour that was available online or on our website. With the coronavirus now, it's really forced everyone to completely change and adapt to the new way of doing things virtually. And now people are really embracing virtual tours, and people are completing applications and renting out properties without ever even stepping foot inside the property, which is pretty unique. So one thing I really recommend is to invest time and money into creating virtual tours. And I'm going to show you a few ways to do this on the budget hacker way, and of course the fancy Madhupur 3D camera tour. Okay, and then of course Zillow just recently announced that they are now doing Zillow 3D tours. So if you are familiar with the Madhupur tours, Madhupur is now competing with Zillow because Zillow has their own 3D virtual tour platform. So Zillow does not allow Madhupur tours to be synced up to Zillow. So if you want a 3D tour on Zillow, which you should definitely have because Zillow is one of the top sites for renters, you have to go through the Zillow platform to create your virtual tour. Now, what does the actual tour look like? I'll give you an example here. So they come out pretty good. You can do them using your smartphone. Depending on the quality of photos you take and upload and how you do the Zillow tour, it will affect the quality of the tour and how it looks. But for the most part, it still comes out looking pretty good. You can move through the property using the arrows. And again, it comes out looking fairly good. Not bad, right? So by comparison, I will show you a 3D Madhupur tour that we are using. So this is one of the rental properties, a condo we currently have on the market with our company. So as you can see, we have professional photography by our photographer, and then we've got a built-in 3D tour embedded into our website. So with the 3D Madhupur tour, it's unique in that people can just click through and they don't need to click certain arrows. There's, to me, it seems a little bit, the camera it tends to be a little bit better. The Zillow 3D tour that I showed you was done by Spotlight Photography, which is the same one that does our virtual tours. So they've got really good cameras. But if you look at other Zillow virtual tours, they don't come as close to the 3D Madhupur tours. So I definitely recommend to do both. If you hire a company like Spotlight, or if you talk to your current photographer that might also do Madhupur tours, they can easily do the Zillow 3D tours because they would use essentially the same file or photos to merge them together. One of the benefits of these virtual tours is, of course, someone, if they have an Oculus headset or maybe Google Cardboard, they can put the headset on and actually walk through these properties as if they're there. So these virtual tours are great because tenants have, and the feedback from tenants has been amazing, that they're able to go through these properties and look at them, get a feel for them. One of the awesome things I've been teaching tenants on how to do with these 3D Madhupur tours is right down here, they have a measurement mode. So one of the biggest questions I get from tenants is, well, how big is this room? You know, I can see this room, but I don't know the dimensions. And so we've been teaching tenants to use this measurement tool where it puts them into a measurement where they can select a specific corner and they can kind of measure. So this one is about 12 feet wide from the corner here to the wall there. So they can go through this entire process, measuring out different rooms using 3D Madhupur tour. And the deal we've negotiated with Spotlight based on volume is a really good tool. So whoever you talk to that does your photography and 3D tours, talk to them about volume. If you work within a company, talk to them, you know, maybe talk to other agents that can get together and at least give the photographer enough volume to where you can get that cost of these tours down. Okay, now the other budget hacking move is, of course, to use a different type of software like Room. So with Room, they have a device that you can buy for about $70 on Amazon. Once the device gets shipped to you, you sign up with a free account with them. And then they have pricing based on different plans, but you can at least sign up for free. And then you can go through and create your own virtual tours. You will need a tripod, and the device actually ships with a very small tripod, but I recommend getting maybe a $12 Amazon tripod that will allow you to steady the camera, and you'll be able to, it kind of works similar to a Madhupur tour, and it takes a full 360 video of the entire property, and you're able to create a virtual tour directly on your phone app. Joey, yes, the links will be shared. I will provide it for everyone. An email will go out with the links. Okay, and then of course, Madhupur, this is the fancy, if you want to jump into doing the best type of virtual tours available. They have various cameras, but their most expensive camera is about $3,500, I want to say. So it's typically best just to hire a photographer that already has a camera and has the ability to just put this together. Um, Let me know if you have any questions on these virtual tours. I am going to jump into some video tours next. Video tours, this was something that we were kind of testing, and my opinion is that for the most part, I don't think they're very effective, but it could be a useful marketing tool depending on how you do it. So here's an example of a basic video tour that we did where we simply walked through a property. We had someone just hold a camera and literally just walk through a bit in slow motion. So this is a bit sped up, so it does take time to put these type of videos together, and then of course to edit, uh, and then you have to know editing or you have to hire an editor. Now, hiring an editor can be fairly cheap. I mean, you can get these done and edited for about 15 to 20 bucks from someone online, and I'll give you a link to a website where you can find these editors for really cheap. But again, for me, as we were talking to consumers and tenants, one of the things that was a common feedback is these videos are nice, but the problem is they're not going to sit there for, this is a 6 minute video. So they're not going to sit there for 6 minutes and essentially watch this when it's easier to flip through photos or easier to go to a virtual tour and just click through a house and actually walk it much faster than 6 minutes. So this was one version of the walkthroughs we were doing. Now, one of the unique things about the 3D Madhupur tour is that it's able to do what's called a highlight reel. And we recorded these highlight reels and actually created them into a video, and I'll show you an example. So again, we did not actually walk through like in the last example that I showed you. This walkthrough video here is auto-generated by the software, by the Madhupur software, using their highlight reel tour feature. And again, it's not the best. You're literally flying through walls, but it gives the viewer a general idea of what walking through this specific apartment may feel like. So this is much quicker because you can actually download the highlight reel at a click of a button. It's automatically put together as part of the Matterport tour, so it saves you time on recording. And then once you have the file saved, it's just a matter of putting it into iMovie, some kind of film editor, and then export it out into a video that you can upload into YouTube. Now, again, if you don't know how to specifically do the editing and exporting and or adding logos or maybe where to apply, then again, for $15 to $20, you can hire someone online and they can put this video together. Again, this can be time consuming, but if you're working with one or two rental properties, not a big deal. Once you start working on these properties on volume, now it starts to become very time consuming. And so that takes me to a company called Fiverr. And let's see, don't have their link here, but I will add it. So Fiverr.com is a great site. It started for basically gigs that people did online for literally $5. And then as it grew in popularity, people started adding additional jobs that could be done for $10 or $15. And so now there's a wide range of different prices, but the core of it, $5 or increments of $5, like $5 job, $10 job, $15 job, is very popular. And you'll find thousands and thousands of freelancers here that can do anything from graphic design, digital marketing, writing, video, music, literally a ton of stuff. They do have a whole real estate section where, let's see, I believe it's under, yeah, real estate promos. And so they have also under industries for real estate, they have all these various real estate specific services that you can hire people to do for you. So one thing I recommend is go under video animation, go to video editing. And if you just do a budget of a max of $30, for example, you will find many people. I mean, here's an example, 30,000 services of under $30 of video editors. And you can hire anyone from anywhere in the world. They all have their own specific prices and their own specific talents. But this is a great way to take a highlight reel from Matterport, or if you do your own video, or if maybe you want to do a slideshow from photos you took, uh, give it to a video editor and you'll be surprised at what they're able to do that you can then upload to Facebook, YouTube, and various other websites. Um, okay, but again, at the end of the day, a video tour, is it really worth it? The feedback from many of the consumers that we spoke to basically said that it's a nice feature to have, but it's not important because they're not going to sit there for more than a minute looking at a video, so they're not going to see the entire property that way. They'd rather look at photos and a 3D virtual tour. um, so Facebook, I do want to talk about Facebook because Facebook is a very popular site, as we all know. But it becomes very useful when you're marketing rental properties. And so we will get, I'll show you some of the websites that we market on. But I want to cover Facebook here because Facebook has two unique ways of marketing your rental properties. First is you create a photo album and then you share that album on your personal page. Make sure that album is set to a worldwide audience so that if anyone shares it, their friends can also see it as well. Because you want as much organic exposure for that photo album of that rental property. Um, because again, more people that see it, the more applications at the end of the day. Uh, Now, if you really want to get into advertising properties on Facebook, this is where you'll need to set up a business page separate from your actual personal page. Super easy to put together, but once you have your business page together, this is where you can start putting together some photo albums and you can start what they call boosting. And once you boost, like for example here, this was, I believe, $30 spend. Okay, this was a $40 spend on this one, and we were able to reach almost 15,000 people with almost 4,000 engagements. Now, reach basically means we had about 15,000, almost 15,000 eyeballs that saw this on their newsfeed at some point. Engagement is basically people that have clicked on a photo, liked the album, commented on the album, or possibly clicked on my profile to look at other properties we had. So again, 4,000 engagement over a week period for $40 is, in my opinion, not bad. And then for the people like real estate people, this is great because it helps build up your audience. Over the last 4 years, I've built up basically 5,300 followers just using this tactic of putting together photo albums and boosting it to advertise. And then before you know it, you've got people following you because you have properties that you showcase. Now, I've actually tried using video on Facebook. It doesn't work that well. I've tried using the photo carousels. They don't work that well. The one thing I found that's very, very effective are photo albums because of the way Facebook organizes the albums in a small collage. And then, of course, it displays how many more photos they can see. You typically want to put one link at the most. Once you start putting 2 or 3 links on an actual post, that's where you start to see some of the activity engagement drop down, and it's not really being shown to as many people because it could be marked as spam. But still, you can see 92 reactions on this post, 27 comments, 15 shares. Now, one thing is if you're trying to get the top of the market rent, you're going to have some negative remarks and some negative comments from people on Facebook. Not all of them, but I'd say about a third are going to be negative and really just people venting about how high prices are in the Bay Area. But again, leave those comments, ignore them, because you'll actually see other people defending the prices, defending the property, defending the neighborhood. And it's always good to have those interactions because it actually helps your numbers to get more exposure. So again, 92, 27 comments, 15 shares. That's a pretty successful post. We've got another one here in El Cerrito. Same thing. It's a photo album. We were able to get 48,600 reach and 11,400 engagement. Now, this was a little bit more of a money spend. We spent $150 on this. Now, the reason why I spent more money is because in this specific building, we had 3 units that actually came up vacant. And so we wanted to rent out these units fairly fast. And we literally had all 3 units rented and moved in within 3 days of each other. And so we only advertised 1 unit, but because we did such a massive advertising spend, really with just $150, we were able to get enough applications in that we literally had so many backups and got them all filled in. So again, worth it. 163 on the reaction marker, 35 comments, 16 shares. So I think that becomes very effective. Now, one of the other unique things about Facebook is Facebook Marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace, it's still fairly new. A lot of people don't know about it, but consumers know about it very well. And so just to show you an example, if you go to the Facebook Marketplace, you can literally look at, it's like the new Craigslist. And no one goes to Craigslist anymore for rentals. And it's full of spams. And everyone now seems to be going toward Facebook Marketplace. And so again, you can buy cars, you can buy used items, some stores sell new items here, but on the search, you can look for property rentals. And so once you start zooming in, and this actually works much better on a mobile app for consumers, but you can zoom into different areas and actually get a look at all the available rental properties here. And people are able to inquire on these properties directly to the owners or management companies from Facebook. And so we advertise all of our properties on Facebook Marketplace, and we'll get into the various websites and networks and how they work. But this is a key site on advertising because it's extremely helpful. So many people are on this Facebook Marketplace. It's definitely a place where you have to advertise. Self-guided showing tours. So one thing that has been very interesting, we've actually tested this for probably the last 2 years, are self-guided tours. Now, we didn't have this available on every single one of our properties because it really depended on the owner, if the owner was okay with it. Many owners struggle with the idea of someone random going to the property, opening the door, getting access to the keys, taking a look at the property, and then locking up afterwards. But there's some pretty impressive software out there that makes it pretty safe. And so I wanted to show you, if you're interested, I wanted to show you a couple of the lockbox services and the sites that we use for this. Now, with the coronavirus and COVID, we are actually no longer doing self-guided tours. In fact, everything that we're doing is virtual 3D tours, and no one steps into one of our properties until we've approved their application. And once we have an approved tenant, we will then schedule an in-person showing for them to take a look at the property, and they'll sign a lease. Even though most of them are wanting to go ahead and sign a lease once they're approved because they've already seen the virtual tour, we still feel comfortable just doing, hey, let's just show you the property in person. If you like it, it all matches up, then we'll go ahead and sign the lease. Because the one frustrating thing is they sign the lease, then they look at the property and then they don't want it anymore, or they give you a bad review because it wasn't what they originally thought it was, or funny things happen. So we like to do a virtual tour. They apply. Once they get approved, then we'll do a final in-person tour, and then we go on to lease signing. But for those still interested in doing self-guided tours, these lock boxes, the code boxes, are amazing lock boxes. They're heavy duty. it's almost impossible to cut these and break these off. But they work really well. They've got 15 years of codes that change every 30 minutes. And so you can program these lock boxes so that when someone wants to go look at the property, you check their ID, vet them out. Maybe you want them to apply and get approved first. But then you have a lockbox on the property. And once you've approved them to go look at the property, they get a specific code for maybe a 30-minute increment, and they're able to go look at the property themselves. And that avoids in-person contact, especially now during COVID. It's it's pretty safe. But it also avoids you having to spend the time to actually drive out and meet someone, depending on how far away the property is. So it's a very effective tool in doing some remote showings. Now, if you have those code boxes, there are software that tie into those code boxes to help you automate a lot of your leasing process. ShowMojo is one software that we used. I've used this software for a couple of years. We stopped using it a few months ago because our property management software, Appfolio, with some new upgraded features, integrated a lot of the features we use from ShowMojo into the Appfolio property manager software. And so we essentially stopped using ShowMojo because it was all incorporated in-house under Appfolio. But ShowMojo, if you don't have Appfolio, ShowMojo is a great alternative when it comes to showing property. It ties into those code boxes, so you have everything under one system as opposed to two different websites that you have to coordinate logins. But with ShowMojo, it allows you to automate scheduling, whether it's a single listing agent that might be showing the property, or whether you have a full team of leasing agents. It handles the coordination with Google Calendar across everyone's calendar. And depending on properties, portfolios, it's got so many customization features. And of course, they also offer a 24/7 answering service for those calling to inquire about your rental property. They have two different types of answering service. They have one that's an automated bot that gives them some very basic information over the phone and then sends them a text with your website link, how to apply, and it also integrates with various other management software like Appfolio, Buildium, Yardi. They also have an upgraded version, which is super reasonably priced, where it's an actual live call center where people can call in and they'll get a live person, and the live person actually answers any questions about the property that's available within ShowMojo. So again, very good software to use to automate a lot of that leasing side of things. Rently is another company that works very similar to ShowMojo. I think Rently is probably ShowMojo's biggest competitor. And Rently also comes with their own set of lock boxes. And I believe Rently uses CodeBox. There's another big popular electronic lockbox software, and I can't remember the name of it, but Rently is probably the number 2 after ShowMojo. They automate things a little bit simpler than ShowMojo. ShowMojo, one of the probably the cons of working with ShowMojo is that they have so many different options available to customize calendars, showings, portfolios, that it can get a little daunting and confusing, whereas Rently makes it super easy. However, ShowMojo has the much better security controls when it comes to actual showings and avoiding people doing scams off your self-guided tours. Okay, so other useful tools that you can use in order to automate and do remote showings is Calendly. So this one connects to your iCalendar, to your Google Calendar, Outlook, and what this does is you can customize various appointment settings and give this link out. They have a free option, and they have also an upgraded like pro version. And so with this, you can literally give out the link or place the link in the various websites you advertise rentals, and basically tell people to schedule a showing, click on this link. When people click on that link, then they can book an actual showing, and they can only select times that sync up to your available times on your calendar. And of course, you can customize what is considered your available time on your calendar. And then this allows people to automatically book showings instead of having to call you or email you and wait for you to respond back. And the whole key to leasing is capturing leads as fast as possible and making sure you're able to communicate with them as fast as possible. And there's right now, there's so many tools available out there to communicate with people without you having to actually do it, because they simply want information. Most consumers, they don't necessarily want to talk to somebody. They simply just want to be able to access the information or schedule a showing right away because it's super convenient. Another useful tool to create is maybe creating your own website for the rental properties you have. If you're a real estate agent, property manager, you for sure should already have your own website. Or maybe you just want to create a website specific to this property, if it's an apartment building, or maybe just for this specific unit. So there's a couple sites that you can use. Squarespace is a very popular website where you can simply go through and put together a website for a property building, or for maybe just a unit in specific. You can embed your virtual tours and photos into this website, and it's super easy to put together. Another one that's also easy to use is, I believe it's pronounced Duda. And this one works very similar to Squarespace. I think they have a few better customizable templates to use. So if you're the type that wants to maybe customize the template, go a little bit deeper into the development of the site, I think this works a lot better than Squarespace. And then of course there's Wix and a whole bunch of other sites that can automate the entire building out of the website. Google Voice is also a useful tool if many times you don't want random prospects to be contacting you directly on your cell phone. But for most of us, a cell phone is really the main communication device, but we may not want our cell phone number out there available to so many different people. So I recommend download the Google Voice app on your phone, sign up for one of the Google Voice accounts. And again, you can have personal or business use, but you set it up and you use this number under all the rental property accounts, so that when people are contacting you, they're contacting you on the Google Voice. They have features, especially if you get into the business side of Google Voice, they have features that will take voicemails and actually translate into text, and will email and text you the actual voicemail. So you don't have to listen to voicemail, you get literally a text. So so that becomes very convenient sometimes. And depending on how many messages you get, it can be a bit of a time saver. One of the questions I get from many people is, what software should I use to screen tenants? Now, if you're in property management, I think you should be using one of the top management softwares like AppFolio Property Manager, Buildium, or Yardi. You should be using one of those three. The Yardi original platform is very expensive. I was quoted for our company, I was quoted about a $25,000 setup fee and about $55,000 per year. It was something crazy like that, to where it just didn't make sense with all the different modules we wanted. And so I didn't go with Yardi, but Yardi also has a Yardi Breeze, which is a very simplified platform that competes with AppFolio Property Manager. I'm a huge fan of AppFolio. I've been using AppFolio for many years. So I recommend them, but I wanted to give you guys an idea of other platforms available out there. Buildium is another one that's very popular. Pricing is very reasonable to Yardi Breeze and AppFolio Property Manager. But AppFolio Property Manager, to me, has been the most effective and the best user interface. And they try to keep everything in-house. and they're constantly adding new features. So I definitely recommend looking into Appfolio Property Manager, which allows you to do screening directly from their system. Now, if you already have Appfolio Property Manager, look at Appfolio Property Manager Plus. It's an upgraded version, a little bit more expensive, but the tools there for your team and your office are so valuable. It allows you to do workflow templates, which for me is amazing because I've literally been able to automate our entire company into a virtual platform using Appfolio Property Manager Plus. So I definitely recommend looking at them, and it's still way cheaper than Yardi's original platform. So if you don't have one of those platforms, and those platforms, those 3 platforms I mentioned, they all can screen tenants directly from their platform. But if you're not looking to spend money into having that kind of software on a monthly basis, there are some other sites that you can use. One of them is RentSpree. Now, I actually learned about RentSpree through the California Association of Realtors because they had done a partnership with them in which if you were a CAR member, you got access to RentSpree for free. And so this allows you to automate some of the leasing process where you provide tenants with a link to apply for your property. They apply online, they pay the application fee, and then you're able to screen them and also do landlord and employer verifications directly through RentSpree. Another site you can also use is called MySmartMove. MySmartMove is another very useful tool. I actually like MySmartMove a little bit better than RentSpree. And again, same process. You're able to screen tenants directly after they complete an online application. They have different packages on this. So most screening packages for tenants will not include a credit score. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that many of these don't include a credit score. If you want a credit score, you're going to be paying a premium price through one of these platforms. Or I recommend, if you're doing a lot of these, really look into Appfolio, Buildium, or Yardi Breeze, because those screen reports do come with a credit report and a credit score number on those credit reports. Okay, so websites to advertise on. So we have here a list of the various websites we advertise on. In the email I send you with a link to all the various sites I just previously discussed, I will also send you a copy of this. This gives you a really quick rundown of the various websites you can advertise on. There's a Bodo, Apartment Love, Classified Ads, FRBO, Hotpads, Hunt, Kilasso, Rental Source. You've got Zumper, Apartment List. Now, if you're looking to advertise on these properties and individually submit these, it's going to take you a very long time. So that's where I recommend to really look into these software programs like Appfolio, Yardi Breeze, and Buildium, because they all have the ability to automatically sync at a click of a button your rental to all these different properties. Again, at a click of a button, it saves you so much time and trouble. One thing you'll notice here is Zillow Rental Network. So many of the big sites have, like Zillow, they bought Hotpads, they bought Trulia. And so if you look at Trulia, you'll see Zillow Network, Rental Network. And so when you post to Zillow, it will automatically post and sync up to Trulia and Hotpads. When you advertise on Zumper is another big website here in the Bay Area. But when you advertise on Zumper, it automatically syncs up to Facebook Marketplace. So what I recommend is always, if you're doing it manually yourself, always do Zillow, because it'll go on Zillow, Hotpads, and Trulia, which are 3 big websites. But then also manually submit on Zumper, because once you manually submit on Zumper, it also goes to Facebook Marketplace. And you're able to, and right there, you're going to capture probably a third to half of all the potential leads you can capture from online marketing. So we'll include a copy of this list for you. I do want to show you, here's an example of just the last few months, the various prospect tracking. So with Appfolio, we're able to track every prospect that inquires about one of our properties. And we're able to take a look at, okay, well, Zumper, we've got 517 leads on our properties in the last 3 months on this. So Zumper and Zillow Rental Network are really the top two networks you want to advertise on. So that's why I say put it on Zumper, put it on Zillow, and then you're going to get the majority of the leads coming in. Now, of course, if you have a good website, your website itself, can generate a big chunk of those leads. One thing I recommend once you have a website is for sure use Google AdWords. And you don't have to spend much on Google AdWords, but the majority of, it seems like so many tenants go onto Google and they simply type in rental properties or rental properties available or available rental properties. And they're using these different type of keywords, and it's amazing to see how many of them find rental properties that way. They really don't go to Zumper or Zillow, or they do a Google search just to cover all bases. And so there's a lot of people you can capture off Google using Google AdWords, and of course, a really good website for your property or for your own business. And then of course, here's some other various different sources that we track. No source recorded. This might be phone calls from us, maybe a walk-in, or it just kind of depends on how the person came about. So this will also be included to just kind of give everyone a general idea. But you can see in the last 3 months, we had 1,500 different guest cards. These are people inquiring about our property. We've captured their contact information. We organize these guest cards to keep track of hot leads, cold leads, inactive, future leads, and then of course, who actually completes an application and eventually leases. But you can see out of these 1,500 guest cards, we had almost 300 applications. So, I mean, that's about a fifth. So about 20% of them converted into actual applications. Now, I can guarantee you, we did not lease out 299 properties. The average number of applications we're getting on each property really vary from 5 on the low side to 10 on the high side. And so we are renting out properties fairly quickly. We're getting a lot of applications, and it really comes down to having the entire marketing package together as a whole so that you're able to capture all these leads. And over time, people do go back to your website and check. They do look for your specific company name because, at least for us, people have come to know that we have good photography. We've got the best virtual tours, and we've got nice properties that we've remodeled and put out there available on the market. And so we do have quite a few people that do check in with us on a regular basis to see what we have available. But all that combined, all the marketing combined, will eventually get you to a point where you're collecting, an average of 100 applications per month, and it's going to be more than enough to rent out your properties really quickly. And so I do want to introduce you to Spotlight Photography. Spotlight Photography is our photographer that does our photos, high-def photos, and they also do our virtual Madhupur Tour and the Zillow tours. And so I will include this flyer where you can contact them, and these are basically available services and packages if you wanted to hire them individually for this. They are open to doing volume pricing, and that's something that if you wanted to reach out to them, you can negotiate volume pricing, which is what we did in order to have the best type of marketing, digital marketing available for the properties we rent. Because if you're going to sell a property and get a 2 or 3% commission on the sale, well, obviously you can easily afford to pay for $100 in drone photography and various packages. But in a rental property, you're not really collecting that kind of money. And so you really need to negotiate a way to budget your marketing expense when you're doing leasing full time. That way you're making money, but you also have the best available marketing package out there. And so again, Spotlight is willing to negotiate on a volume basis. So definitely reach out to them, see what you guys can do. I recommend them. If you have your own photographer, again, talk to them about volume pricing, because I think especially right now with the real estate market changing, there's less listings. I think there's a lot of photographers and videographers out there looking for extra work and really willing to work on volume pricing. And there's deals to be made out there right now for businesses. So, but I love Spotlight and what they do. That is it for this webinar here. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat or send me an email. I'll provide a contact info for everyone. And now, at the end of the day, I do want to finish off with this. At the end of the day, you could have the best marketing, the best photos, the best 3D tours, but at the end of the day, it's also going to come down to pricing. So make sure you look at the competition, what other renters are looking for. If you see stuff available on Zillow, on Zumper for certain prices, that does not mean those properties will rent for those prices. Unfortunately, there's not really an MLS standard, like a multiple listing standard for rentals as there is for the home resale market, where you can look at sold comps or look at rented comps. So really look at the competition, what things could potentially be renting for. And I always recommend, once you determine what the going market rate is for the rental, really consider to aim for 90 to 95% of that market rent price, because that's going to really help you market properties faster. You get it out, you get it rented quickly, because the following year you can always do a rent increase depending on what's allowable by various rent control laws. So that's it. Thank you for watching and attending the webinar. And again, links, everything will be emailed out to everyone who registered. If you are watching this on a future YouTube video, all my contacts available on my YouTube channel. Send me an email and I can send you all the downloadable links, or visit our website at www.bgam.us, and under Insights, you'll be able to find this downloadable PDF and webinar.